This is the house I built with my own money, so you should leave right now.
What? But this house is.
See, it would be difficult for you to become financially independent if you left me, given that you're working part-time.
When John said this, he presented me with divorce papers and a satisfied expression on his face. My name is Emily, and I am 32 years old. I currently work part-time at a local drugstore. I met my husband John at work, and we got married 5 years later. At his strong request, I quit my job when we got married and started living as a full-time housewife. Recently, I finally persuaded John to let me work again. However, we don't have any children yet, and although I want to get a dog, I have given up on that dream for John, who doesn't like animals. My husband, who is not happy about me going back to work, has recently started to complain about my role in our home.
Hey, have you really been cleaning properly lately? The house seems messy, and there's a mountain of laundry piling up, isn't there?
Huh. I have been doing the cleaning and laundry as usual.
Really? Today's dinner felt a bit like you cut corners.
That's not true. It's just that work was busy today, and I got home late. As I tried to say something, John interrupted me with a smug look.
Even though you say you're working, it's just part-time, isn't it? It's different from a proper job like mine. So you should at least manage the household perfectly.
But part-time is a respectable job, too.
You can live because of my salary. So don't talk back and just do as I say. See, you can't argue because I'm right.
My husband, who has a high sense of pride, seemed displeased that I was working part-time. He looked down on my part-time status and started boasting as if our living depended on his income. Though I chose him as my marriage partner, being belittled time and again was infuriating. In the midst of such a situation, my husband finally took a vacation and we decided to visit his parents' house. Although I was irritated by his recent behavior, the prospect of an outing after a long while lifted my spirits. However, I had no idea that the day would end in the worst mood possible. Nonetheless, hoping for even a slightly good day, I prepared to go out with my husband. When we arrived at my husband's parents' house, our destination, his parents came out to the entrance and warmly welcomed us. After enjoying a pleasant dinner together that night, I helped my mother-in-law with the dishes. When I finished and went to the living room, I saw my father-in-law, who had just taken a shower. Meanwhile, my husband seemed to be in the bath. In my heart, I felt the atmosphere, which had been harmonious with my in-laws until a little while ago, suddenly turn heavy and stern. In that tense air, my father-in-law began to speak.
Emily, I heard from John a little while ago that you recently started working part-time.
Yes, that's right. Anxiety grew inside me.
Our John has a stable income. Are you still not satisfied?
No, that's not it. I simply like working and being active.
I've heard you're not managing household chores properly. Even so, do you realize how much trouble you're causing our son by continuing to work part-time?
Exactly. You have a duty to manage the household more properly. If you have time to go to your part-time job, use that time for household chores. Since it's just a part-time job, the workplace won't be troubled even if you quit. But it's different for household chores. John is working hard. Don't you feel ashamed watching him?
My mother-in-law has been a devoted housewife since they got married, continually focusing on our family life. As a result, my in-laws, including my husband John, seem to take it for granted that women should stay at home, viewing this situation as completely natural. They might not fully grasp the fact that I have continued working outside even after marriage. Yes, I'm really sorry. Even though I apologized right away, I couldn't completely hide my shock. I never thought my husband would discuss me this way with his parents. I truly enjoy my current job, have wonderful colleagues, and find joy in working together. I work part-time, but I don't want to be told that my absence wouldn't cause any trouble at my workplace. I take pride in managing my work and household duties well, and I've been trying harder than before to ensure everything at home runs smoothly, even when John is tired from work. I understand and respect that he works hard, and it's just very unfortunate how things turned out. A few nights after the distressing experience at my in-laws' house, I suddenly found myself missing my parents and decided to call them. Living far apart means I can't visit them directly, but I hoped that hearing their voices would help ease my loneliness.
Hello, is this Emily? What's up? Calling so suddenly?
Hearing my father's gentle voice, which I hadn't heard in a long time, almost brought tears to my eyes. I usually expect my mother to pick up, so it felt a bit strange, but I told myself it was just a coincidence. Dad, I'm so happy to hear your voice after such a long time. I don't really have a specific reason for calling. I just suddenly wanted to hear your voice. How have you been? And how's Mom?
I'm doing great, no problems at all. But your mom's knee has been acting up a bit. She's fine overall, just needs to be careful not to strain her knee too much.
What? Is Mom okay? If I remember correctly, My mom had knee issues in the past, but she had fully recovered after treatment and rehabilitation, so there shouldn't be any issues now.
Yes, it's not a big deal. She just fell on the stairs recently and seems to have hurt the part she injured before. But the doctor said she should be fine as long as she rests. So don't worry too much. We have to be more careful in our daily lives since we're getting older.
I see. Please tell Mom to take it easy and get well soon. And Dad, take care of yourself too. If I can find the time, I'll try to visit.
All right, thank you, Emily. I know you're busy with work and everything, but please take care of yourself and don't overdo it.
Hearing my dad's voice was comforting, but learning about my mom's knee left me feeling worried. She's not in bad shape, and rest should help her recover quickly, but I can't help feeling concerned. In reality, just as my father had mentioned before, my parents are indeed getting older. Reflecting on my childhood when I still lived at home, I remember my mother energetically running around the house, which makes me feel a bit heavy-hearted when I think about it now. Come to think of it, my father mentioned that my mom stumbled on the stairs. Hearing that, I suddenly tried to recall the layout and structure of the house I used to live in. I didn't pay much attention to it back then, but now that I think about my parents in their 60s living there together, I feel that the house might be quite uncomfortable to live in. Our family home is quite old, with steep stairs and no handrails installed at all. It must be especially tough for my mom, who is dealing with knee pain. I can't help but worry about my parents living far away by themselves, and the fact that our house isn't accessible is a major issue. The terrifying thought that we might not be able to do anything if something happens to them in the future keeps haunting me. Although we both have jobs and can't be too self-centered, I've always wished I could live closer to my parents. Considering my parents' old age and the old state of our house, I feel that the house might be reaching the end of its life soon. After this incident, I made a decision to build a new house for my parents. Actually, I have some passive income from real estate I inherited from a relative. My parents advised me to keep it as a secret just in case, and to save it for emergencies. That's why I've been keeping it a secret even from my husband, John. I've been saving up for a time of need. Using these saved funds, I am seriously considering gifting a newly built house to my parents, whom I am deeply grateful to. I am keenly aware that I am who I am today thanks to my parents' patient support and upbringing. I feel like the opportunity to repay them has finally arrived, and my heart is full of gratitude. Although it is my money, it is a significantly large purchase, so I can't make this decision alone. That's why I decided to quickly discuss this matter with my husband, John.
The parents are getting quite old, so this is probably a good opportunity.
He agreed far more easily than I expected. Honestly, I was bracing myself for him to object, so I couldn't hide my surprise at his reaction. Really? I'm relieved to hear that. Thank you.
However, you work part-time, so it's dubious whether building a house is truly possible. After all, you tend to keep quiet about things. Are you really sure about this?
I'm sure. Trust me.
Well, if that's the case, then that's great. But remember, you need to pull your weight.
While I felt genuine joy at his words of approval, I felt a bit irritated inside at how he once again seemed to belittle the fact that I work part-time. I didn't think my employment status had anything to do with this matter, but I wanted to avoid an argument, so I decided to end the conversation there. The next day, I started to act quickly, pouring all my efforts into the project of building a new home for my parents. During this process, communication with the involved parties went very smoothly. Meanwhile, John, my husband, had a somewhat dissatisfied look on his face as he watched me busily moving around. However, since he didn't say anything, I decided not to mind it too much and focused on the project. The day was just like any other ordinary day. However, on that day, I discovered that the balance in the bank account I used to manage our household finances had clearly decreased. Recently, I've been having hectic days and missed the opportunity to visit the bank. When I finally updated my bank book after a long while, I noticed that a significant amount of $5,000 had been withdrawn this month. I had no recollection of withdrawing such a large amount of money, so I intuitively believed that it must have been my husband who withdrew it. However, what on earth did he withdraw such a large amount of money for? I couldn't help but be puzzled, so I decided to wait until nightfall and confront him about this matter as soon as he returned home. As night fell and my husband came home, I immediately questioned him about it. The words that came out of his mouth both surprised me and made me doubt my ears. Hey, I have something I want to ask you about. Actually, today, after a long while, I went to the bank and updated my bank book. Then I realized that $5,000 was missing from our household account. Do you know anything about it?
Oh, that. To tell you the truth, I withdrew that money and gave it to my parents.
Why all of a sudden?
Well, recently they seem to be in a tight financial situation. But we have a decent amount of savings ourselves, and I thought that amount wouldn't be a problem.
But when we last visited your parents' house, I didn't feel that they were in such a situation at all.
They didn't want to worry us, so they must have been acting as usual. What, are you going to complain about this?
No, I'm not complaining. It's just that it was from our household account, so I wish you had consulted with me beforehand. It seemed my words irritated my husband as his tone of voice became rough, and he retorted.
This is money I've earned, so how I use it is up to me. I don't need to consult with you every single time. I can't believe you, not even able to handle household matters properly with your part-time job, would dare to say such a thing.
I just stood there, saying nothing, and my husband, unable to wait any longer, irritably closed the door with a bang and left the room. Until now, he had let me handle family matters without interfering, so I thought that was a sign of his trust in me. Having thought I was trusted, this incident made me feel that his trust was shaken, and I was disappointed. Even though there was a bit of awkwardness between my husband and me after that, we continued with our usual lives. It's natural to have fights when you've been living together for 5 years. Despite incidents like this one, after some time, our relationship often returns to how it was, as if nothing had happened. However, this time, I wanted to hear an apology from my husband. But I also wanted to avoid making the atmosphere worse again, so in the end, I kept silent. And then, one day suddenly, our new house was completed. The recent advancements in construction technology are truly remarkable, and I could really feel how the time it took to build the house from the start of construction had been significantly shortened. My excitement was unparalleled, and in high spirits, I wasted no time in calling my parents to start planning the move in detail. In reality, I had heard that the building was progressing at a much faster pace than expected, so I had already asked my parents to start preparing for the move. My mom recently hurt her knee, and my dad is already elderly, so I told them to avoid lifting heavy objects and to proceed with the preparations as much as they could manage. For large furniture and appliances, we were planning to hire professional movers. My husband and I planned to go help my parents on his day off. The feeling of being able to gift my parents a new house was slowly becoming a reality. I was completely elated and couldn't imagine any unexpected events happening afterwards. And then, when the new house was finally completed and I checked the moving schedule with my husband, I was shocked by his words.
Oh, why do I need to go to your parents' house? This is the house I built for my parents to move into.
What? What are you talking about? I built this house for my parents.
No, what are you talking about? You just work part-time. You don't have that kind of money. This house was built with the money I earned.
My husband spoke to me in a belittling tone, but this was not something to be taken lightly. I was sure that I had clearly conveyed that the house was being built for my parents. Maybe he had easily agreed because he believed the house was for my parents. My husband had no idea at all that I had a passive income. If this situation continued, he would never believe that I used my own savings to build the house. So, I decided to explain to him about my passive income. Actually, I have. When I told him that I had passive income, he first looked surprised, but then he immediately retorted.
There's no way that's true. You just want a new house and you're lying about it.
No matter how many times I explained, he wouldn't believe what I said. Furthermore, he started insisting that since he paid for the house with his salary, his parents had the right to live there. That day, no matter what I said, he wouldn't listen, and he unilaterally ended the conversation. I had no choice but to decide in my heart to talk to him again the next day. However, suddenly the next day, my husband approached me with a stern attitude.
I paid for the house, so you need to leave.
But the house was built with my savings for my parents. Anyway, being suddenly told to leave left me at a loss.
Well, you working just part-time couldn't possibly support yourself if we got divorced.
To suddenly bring up divorce, my husband John spoke to me in a high-handed manner as if belittling me. I was confused by the situation but tried my best to calm things down, though inside I was filled with shock and confusion. It only took a moment for me to understand what my husband had said. Just as I remained silent, he thrust the already completed divorce papers into my hands with a smug look on his face and left the house to heading to work, a scornful smile on his lips. Reflecting on our past, he had often belittled me. He probably never thought I would actually go through with submitting the divorce papers. While this could have been a form of intimidation, I was confident I could make it on my own without his income. My mind was filled with anger, but I calmly decided to sign the divorce papers and submit them. Then, I packed all my belongings, left the house, and headed to my parents' place. My parents were shocked to see me return home so suddenly, but they warmly welcomed me back after I explained the situation. Moving back home sped up my moving preparations, and eventually, my parents and I decided to live together in a new house. Although I was somewhat concerned about the complete lack of contact from my ex-husband, the divorce papers had already been submitted, and constantly worrying about it was mentally exhausting, so I decided not to think about it. A few weeks after moving in with my parents, a moving company I didn't recognize showed up at our door. Confused, I checked and was shocked to find that the belongings were sent under my ex-husband's name. Talking to the movers, I found out that my ex-husband and his parents were on their way in their car. I couldn't comprehend why he would move into this house, where I now lived with my parents, without any notice. We were divorced, making him practically a stranger, and the idea of a stranger imposing into my life was unbelievable and terrifying. The moving crew was also confused about how to handle this unexpected situation. After calming down and consulting with my parents, we decided to call the police to resolve the issue. The police explained that given the house was in my name and we were legally divorced, his actions were likely legally problematic. When my ex-husband and his parents arrived, they were clearly unsettled upon seeing the police. His parents seemed completely confused about the situation, but my ex-husband finally seemed to grasp the reality.
What in the world is going on, John? Explain yourself.
Confronted harshly by both the police and his own parents, my ex-husband was clearly agitated and panicking. Seeing his distressed face, something I had never seen before, I felt a strong desire to have nothing more to do with him. Nonetheless, I decided to seize the opportunity to submit the necessary documents to the police to resolve the matter. While I didn't hear about the subsequent details directly, a mutual acquaintance told me that he went through quite a lot of trouble. At the time, his parents had already canceled the lease on their apartment, leaving them with no home to return to. Moreover, the moving company filed numerous complaints, making the situation very troublesome for them. And because of a certain item I had submitted to the police, my ex-husband faced even more difficulties. It was solid evidence of the moral harassment he had subjected me to. I had recorded an audio file capturing the evidence during a moment of intense anger towards him. After various twists and turns, I finally succeeded in winning alimony from my ex-husband. He had little savings to begin with, so he ran out of funds and is now somehow managing to live while being supported by his parents. It seems that the truth has come out to his colleagues at work, and I hear he is in a very uncomfortable situation there now. With the alimony I received, I decided to take my parents on a trip to make them happy. They were genuinely pleased with this gift, and I was very happy to see them so joyful. Additionally, using the remaining alimony and my savings, I decided to start my own business. I faced numerous difficulties at first, but recently my business has started to grow smoothly, and I am beginning to have a bit of financial leeway. Therefore, I decided to get a dog, something I have wanted to do for a long time. Now, I live a fulfilling life every day, and I am truly glad I took decisive action back then. I'm going for a walk, I said cheerfully.
Take care, have a nice walk.
She replied kindly, and there is actually one more thing I look forward to every day.
Oh, hello, Emily. Isn't that your lovely dog you're walking with?
This gentleman is a handsome neighbor I happened to meet during my walk. Hello. Yes, we are just on a walk right now.
What a coincidence. I'm out walking my dog as well. If you don't mind, may I join you?
Oh, of course. Please, feel free to walk with us.